This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the good folks over at Sherlock Packaging, a consumer packaging design firm that specializes in food, medical, and consumer products. If you have a legal cannabis product that's in need of smart, well-designed packaging, then look no further than Sherlock Packaging, which you can read more about online over at sherlockpack.com, with Sherlock spelled as two words, S-U-R-E, then L-O-C-K, sherlockpack.com. One of my favorite products from Sherlock Packaging is their very cool 3-digit combo lockbox, which is great for keeping your cannabis safe and secure and only available to you and whatever other adult of age that you share with. Those lockboxes, as well as all the other products that Sherlock makes, can be purchased online right now over at their website or can be custom printed with your branding and graphics. We actually got some Sherlock Packaging lockboxes made for our adventures in Las Vegas last month, and I couldn't have been happier with how they came out. Just open up sherlockpack.com and see what they have available. Thanks to everyone at Sherlock Packaging for the support that keeps this show running. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, December 12th, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 627 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Today's top story is a great longer-form piece by Chris Roberts over at Leafly, looking at the dozens of vaporizer patents filed by the company the Altria Group, parent of cigarette maker Philip Morris and beer brewer Anheuser-Busch InBev. The Altria Group is also now the owner of a large stake in the Canadian licensed marijuana company the Cronos Group, a $1.5 billion deal that was just announced last week. Chris's story looks at the Altria Group's portfolio of vaporizer patents through the lens of the company's aspirations to lock up as much of the vape pen market as possible through patent hoarding. This is certainly an area where the company has a lot of expertise, as Leafly is reporting that the Altria Group claims to hold 78 registered patents, with almost as many in pending status. Read this story if only to arm yourself with a little bit of defensive knowledge. Things are only going to get more complex in our industry. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Massachusetts is slated to get its third operational adult use dispensary this weekend, as the state's Cannabis Control Commission gave the final nod to Alternative Therapy Group, which will open up its shop in Salem, Massachusetts on Saturday. In a bid to avoid the huge lines of customers that have greeted the first two dispensaries to open up in the state and to avoid running out of supply, the company says it is only accepting cash and will require shoppers to make appointments ahead of their visit so they can show up with their choices already pre-selected and ready to go. As I reported on earlier this week, the lines of customers at those first two shops, opened in the towns of Northampton and Leicester, remain long even now a few weeks after they first opened their doors. Alternative Therapies Group said their policy of turning away walk-up customers will end once it's clear that supply lines are secure and stable. And finally for today, we have another quick update on the 2018 Farm Bill storyline we've been tracking closely over the last few weeks. With another good, timely update is Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment, who had a headline in yesterday's news with the bill's full language, and was back today with details about the actual Senate vote yesterday that passed the legislation out of the House for one last vote before heading out to the White House for final approval. Since the newly reconciled bill that just made it out of conference committee has language in it that wasn't in the House version, that legislative body must get one last pass at it, but that's expected to happen. So after President Individual 1 affixes his Sharpie signature to the bill, industrial hemp will be legal in the United States. We're nearly there. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Sherlock Packaging, a packaging design firm specializing in food, medical, and consumer products. Sherlock Packaging is a full-service business, and their experienced team of experts is there to help you figure out all the things you need to get right about your legal cannabis packaging. They can provide design services, help you with photography, spec out custom packaging work, and offer run sizes both big and small. You can swing over to SherlockPack.com to see the different kinds of packaging options that Sherlock Packaging has, which is spelled SURELOCK pack.com. SherlockPack.com. The next thing about SherlockPack.com is that you can order their products at the retail level so you can see how beautifully printed and thoughtfully designed everything they make is. Harness some of that expertise for yourself by opening up, one last time, SherlockPack.com. Big thanks to everyone over at Sherlock Packaging for supporting today's news. All right, time for the Blitz. Tom Angel over Marijuana Moments picked up on a story out of the UK where yesterday British lawmakers voted down a proposed measure to legalize adult use marijuana and to set up a taxed and regulated sales scheme. Tom has all the details on this one, which was an interesting read and worthy of a click over. Returning to the Bay State for a headline, we have a story about the city of Boston and the efforts it's making right now to figure out how it wants to zone and regulate adult use marijuana businesses within its borders. Boston currently has laws in place for where medical and adult use shops can be situated, but there's a little bit of friction in that if the city is overly restrictive in enacting where cannabis businesses can go, it can open itself up to more lawsuits by entrepreneurs hungry for more opportunity. Maybe not a bad story for anyone to read, as these issues and conflicts are likely to pop up in a lot of places as cannabis becomes legal. Data and market research company BDS Analytics just announced the launch of a new product with their Cannabis Retail Price Index, aiming to be a benchmark for retail marijuana product pricing. Sounds like it should be a useful tool, and you can read more about it in their press release over at Cision PRNewswire. Michigan state lawmakers voted yesterday to approve a bill that would remove the requirement that minority stake owners of medical marijuana businesses pass background checks for involvement in criminal matters. Under the newly passed bill's language, which still needs to survive a run through the state Senate, people owning less than 5% of a medical marijuana business can skip going through the process of submitting background information. The bill's sponsor, Republican Representative Clint Kesto, pointed out that people with that little ownership in a company don't typically have any say in how it's run, so there's no need to go through the administrative hassle of running checks on their backgrounds. Sounds like a good piece of legislation. NBC News has another big mainstream marijuana story up, this time looking at the complex world of marijuana and how its use affects people differently. I think one of the more fascinating things about cannabis is how much variety is naturally built into the marijuana model. If you compare marijuana to, say, alcohol, it's like comparing jazz to the music that I make when I tap my toe to the radio. Alcohol is one chemical compound, ethanol, working its chemical magic upon you in a relatively consistent and known way. We know a lot about how ethanol affects you and your abilities to think and move and jump and operate things like cars. That's not at all the case with cannabis, which has more than 100 different major factors, all combining to create its effects on a person. And those effects can be different from person to person. Before I spin off on an overly long tangent about cannabinoids and terpenes, I'll direct you to open up the NBC News story about the scientists working to crack the cannabis effects code. There are a lot of interesting things and business opportunities in that search. Give this one a read. The Montreal Gazette takes a look at some of the challenges faced by legal marijuana farmers holding the smallest sized tier operating licenses, who say they're being stymied by zoning issues and local municipalities who aren't quite sure how to deal with the country's newly enacted adult use legalization system. Another instructive story for anyone to dive into. And finally for today, the New York Times has a good piece up that's guaranteed to be widely read about the entrance of big tobacco and big booze into the legal cannabis industry. We all knew this was going to happen. As state restrictions on cannabis continue to fall away, opening up new markets, the economic incentive for any company to buy up marijuana firms is only getting stronger, and there's a natural case for alcohol and tobacco companies in particular to do so. If you're in an industry that's being threatened by another line of business taking away your customers, one way to protect yourself from losing profits is to just buy up that competitor. Not a bad one to read today. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJ Today Daily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Sherlock Packaging, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Jay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.